Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all excited that now you're going to perform your own projects from the proteomics data set. And I just showed you this video clip, which is about proteogenomics made from the National Cancer Institute. It's very important to understand that, when we talk about real biological problems, especially when you talk about human health, we cannot just look at one side of the picture and we say like we understand the system very well. For example, proteins are very important functional molecules. They govern all the function. At the same time, the blueprint, all the mutation burden, those information you can reveal from the genomics. So I think integration of the information is equally important, especially if you want to understand any life science system, any biological system, especially human health, at the comprehensive scale. You need to build the information layer by layer. As much you can add information from those sample type, it will be really important. Just on a lighter note, today one of my student, she's working on the cervical cancer. She went to Tata Memorial, ACTRAC, which is the cancer hospital here, where our collaborators are working. And idea is that they are getting these patient samples. From the same sample, they are going to extract RNA, DNA, and protein. So my student has went because she can do protein extraction for proteomics application. And the Tata Memorial team, they are good into doing the RNA and DNA from the same sample. So as soon as you get the patient sample, excise the tumor, can we quickly try to extract all the molecules of life, as much as possible information, because at least RNA is very labile, it will degrade very fast. If you can extract RNA, convert to cDNA and store that, then that can be very stable. And likewise, to minimize the loss of the tissue, because otherwise if you chop down tissue into multiple pieces, then you say, okay, somebody will do RNA, some will do DNA, some will do protein extraction. It's going to be very difficult to manage from the small amount of tissue. Think about uh, not every tumor tissue is removed like in the ample amount. Most of the time it's only needle biopsy which goes, pinch the tumor tissue, just get a small sample from that. And especially if it is not the primary tumor, when you are looking at recurrent tumor or a follow-up study, it can be very small sample amount which will be available. So just to to cover it up, mainly what we are trying to convey, that be very broad, be very open, think innovatively, think about how you can obtain the information of a given problem from different level of investigations, whether it's generating data at different molecular systems, or also even trying to utilize literature information, try to build the metadata analysis, like you generate your own data from some set of sample, also utilize the literature information and see like some other additional data if they have, can you try to integrate that? In some cases, for example, if we have proteomics data, but somebody else in the world has done transcriptomics of the similar type of samples, can we try to integrate those information and try to build more layer of information? So this gives you at least some open thought process that how you should be thinking along line of your projects, because what we have given you is some very static information, some data set, which you are free to now explore in your own way and finally come up with your understanding about what you can understand from that data. So this is what we are going to do today. Again, we will split the groups into two broad groups, and we will help you to proceed with your data sets, and we'll take your query so that you are well prepared to take your analysis forward. Of course, understanding the biological pathways, making the literature review, understanding the biological context of those proteins, and making the interpretation of that is going to be your intellectual component, which you have to bring into the project. But before I split the group and we move on to the data analysis, I thought at least I will give you some more flavor of proteomics applications, because finally what we are talking now, we have given you some fundamentals, some data workflows, how all of that is being applied into the real life problems, how we can utilize that for the clinical research, especially the kind of project which we are doing. But the same is valid for plant research or any other type of biological system. So I'm going to today talk to you about a different application. Last week I talked to you, or the last class I talked to you about infectious disease. Today I'm going to shift here. I'm going to give you a flavor of some of the ongoing projects in the lab in the area of brain tumors. We work very actively in this area with a large number of researchers from my team and different clinicians who are from Tata Memorial Hospital and ACTRAC Hospital. They are collaborating on these projects along with certain international collaborators. So we look at brain tumor, different type of brain tumors, especially meningioma, glioblastoma, other type of gliomas, medulloblastoma, pituitary tumor. And Dr. Ali, he is one of the neurosurgeon at Tata Memorial Hospital. Dr. Sridhar, he is a histopathologist. And Dr. Shirshat, she is a molecular oncologist. So in this way, we have a balanced team who looks into different ways of analyzing, the clinical data set, and they pose a challenge to us: can we understand those clinical problem more at the molecular level, at the protein level? So I'm just going to give you a brief flavor of the different projects, because we want to give you more time for the project activities, but at least some flavor of how we take these data forward, and some of the data which we have given to you may belong to these projects as well, which we are talking. So let's say meningioma, one of the brain tumor arises from the meninges of the brain, and it's one of the most prevalent type of brain tumor. Again, for investigating this problem, we collect variety of sample type from the Tata Memorial Hospital: tissue sample, serum sample, cerebrospinal fluid sample. Utilize different type of technology platforms, whether it's mass spectrometry based approaches to look for the label-free or label-based investigations, or protein microarray based platform to look at antibody response, immune response. Then we would like to validate those targets using different type of ELISA, Western blot, or even thinking about targeted assays using triple quadruple based mass spec. So again, you need a variety of ways of optimization of these methods, which we have been discussing in the class. More specifically, that what kind of clinical problem we would like to investigate here. The information which we get from clinicians are that these are the tumor tissue. For the same tumor tissue, you have different type of WHO, World Health Organization, defines the classification schemes, and based on the morphology of these tumor cells, looking at the different type of immunohistochemistry pattern analysis from different antibodies, they come up with the different grading, that is early grade, grade 1, or grade 2, or grade 3 of disease. Or even when they do radiology images of these tumor, they look at the location of the tumor. Is that towards the central part, skull base? Is that more on the peripheral part? And which of those is going to be much more aggressive tumor type? So these are the kind of information which clinicians have. They do not have the understanding of the molecular understanding of what is constituting grade 1 different than grade 2, what makes this tumor more aggressive than this tumor type. So all these are something which they want more molecular understanding. When we look at the grade-wise comparison of the meningioma brain tumor samples, so again, now you understand the entire workflow. Protein extraction was done. Each of the samples were run into the mass spectrometer to obtain the label-free quantification analysis. We generate those data set of 2 hours or 3 hours of long gradient. After that, the entire data was processed from MaxQuant, further analyzed using MetaboAnalyst, and what you see some of those output, from those analysis. This is where you will be also doing your own analysis. So what we are looking at, we have information for the WHO grading, right? So again, for your projects also, please feel free to ask us some additional information if you think that will help you to make the interpretation better. And that's where I think you have to be more alert that what additional information which you need from those given Excel sheet and those data sets. So in this case, when we look at the different grades of the tumor, we are looking at grade 1 and grade 2 tumors. And within grade 1, we could see there are quite heterogeneity, like some are forming a cohort here, other group is forming cohort here, whereas grade 2 we're looking at much more homogeneous. When we look at the this kind of PCA plots, you can see that grade 1s are forming 2 different cohorts, and grade 2s are more or less homogeneous. And these are the control groups of arachnoid and dura mater, which is the non-tumor controls of the brain, which is actually quite apart from the tumor sample in those patients. We also look at radiological information. So by the way, from this one, what we got some novel information, that early grades are all not same. Within early grade also, there is a possibility for a subtype existence, that there are 2 subtypes within the grade 1. Therefore, these patients require different different ways of treatment modality as compared to this group of patient, which is not known so far. Everybody is treated as the early grade 1. Additionally, we also look at the radiological images, and those grading what was given to us. Now, the powerful part which I have been emphasizing earlier in my lectures, when you run the sample in the label-free quantification, we are actually separating each sample separately for those 2 or 3 hours of chromatography gradient. And every patient sample, you are acquiring the peptide library separately. Now, one layer of information we have from those samples is the WHO grading. Second layer of information which we have is for radiological subgrouping. So same data, since you have acquired individually, now same data could be reanalyzed in a different manner. So now we reanalyze the whole data in the context of radiological parameters. And we thought, can we now compare the data for the skull-based versus supratentorial? And looking at this and finding out the pattern and looking at multiple proteins which are still showing promising result, but then we did not have enough clues because there are still large number of proteins are showing change. And that's where the machine learning came into the play, that how to utilize this entire set of the significant differentially expressed protein and then try to look at more ML based approaches to see can we narrow down these and see which ones are the most influential hub which is driving this activity. And Professor Graham Ball, who is one of our collaborators, does expertise in the machine learning area. He ran this program, and finally we could see there are certain nodes which are emerging, which is more active positive regulators and some are negative regulators of this activity. And those are eluding us towards, more fibrillin 5 protein and extracellular matrix regulation, which could be driving the aggressiveness of these tumor type. So again, think about, leading from the tumor tissue samples and making all kind of observation, finally trying to reach out to the major culprits and the major hubs, which could be utilized for the drug treatment activities. Additionally, looking at our entire data set, so I'm just giving you the snippets of the data. It's like huge amount of data which we're talking right now. So we also found one of the pathway which was very much getting changed, integrin link kinases and the PI3-AKT pathway. And one of the student, Sholina, who was a PhD student at that time, now she's a postdoctoral researcher. So she went to Imperial College, where they had these patient-derived cell line of meningioma patients. Now, on these patient samples, which is, from each patient they derive the cell line, she used this CPD22 drug to inhibit this particular ILK, integrin link kinase, and try to see can we control the tumor growth based on the inhibition from this particular drug. So looking at this kind of approaches and trying to validate your findings into the cell culture model or animal model, this is the way forward towards the clinical journey of taking the basic research forward and trying to reach for the clinical translation. They showed very promising result. And then further, I think Deep in the lab and other students, they're trying to investigate much more detailed network and the entire pathways of the meningioma brain tumors and trying to see where maximum emphasis could be given. And especially, if you look at many different kinases, they're playing very important role. And you can see there are certain important candidates which could be taken forward, and we can try to control those or inhibit those in order to control the aggressiveness of the meningioma higher grade tumors. This just gives you idea that how we are taking our leads forward. This is where you have to take your leads forward as well, looking at the literature review, the pathways, and thinking about literature and your own intellectual ways that what can be the way forward to understand this problem. I'm shifting gear now, moving from meningioma to medulloblastoma, which is a pediatric brain tumor. Now, pediatric brain tumor, as you can understand, these are children which are, early age. Some are, 3-4 years, some are up to, 13-14 years. These children, they suffer from aggressive medulloblastoma brain tumor. And looking at their microRNA and the gene expression profile, it has been reported that they form 4 subtypes, 4 subgroups: Wnt signaling related genes, SHH related genes, group 3 and group 4. One of our collaborators, Dr. Neelam Shirshit from ACTRAC, she did this work almost a decade ago and found very interesting these findings. And when they looked at the aggressiveness of these tumor, they found that group 3 patients, they are most aggressive as compared to other group type. Now, if you look at the genomic signature, the group 3 and group 4, they share quite a bit of similarity at the gene expression level. SHH and Wnt are quite different, but the aggressiveness of group 3 is the highest. which is not reflected that they are very different than group 3 and group 4. Group 4 is not so aggressive. So question which was given to us was essentially what makes group 3 tumor most aggressive type, which is different than the group 4. So this is where you can think about, different technologies adds different layer of information and try to bring up, a more insight to understand those complex clinical problems. So to overcome this, we have to now start from the scratch. We have taken the patient samples. We have to do protein extraction, look at their entire proteome profile. We could see even the same subtypes as well at the proteome level. But what our major focus was to compare the group 3 versus group 4. Again, I'm skipping all this. You by now are familiar that you can generate these kind of volcano plot, these kind of heat maps, looking at the metabolism, looking at the even Protege. There are many other softwares, which you can utilize. Perseus can be used. And finally, what we were interested across different tumor type here, that which of the protein signature makes group 3 and group 4 different. Can we understand group 3 tumor? What are the protein which are different in the expression as compared to group 4 tumor, because group 3s are the most aggressive type. And to our delight, there were a set of protein which showed actually very contrasting differences in group 3 and group 4, which was not obtained earlier based on the gene expression signature and microRNA based analysis. Looking at our data and our this kind of analysis, again some student from computer science department of our IIT Bombay only, they worked with us and used this data to come up with the predictive panel, which was blindly used to validate the findings into a different data set, which was obtained from the Broad Institute. And they tried to use our panel of the signatures and use the broad data where they had no idea that what patients are group 3 and group 4, and try to do this blinded analysis and made very accurate prediction, except that one misclassifier. And these proteins are belonging to some of the very interesting known biological complexes, and some of them are linked to the hypoxia-related signaling. So this is where you can see, like, the proteomics data set, the expression of these proteins, narrowing down the panel, using the ML approaches to find the best possible classifiers, and then blindly validating your targets to an unknown data set is the way forward. And then, of course, you'd like to understand what are the biological pathways governing this tumor type. So then this is where you have to put together a lot of puzzles and try to come up with more speculative hypothesis that what is probably going on, because this one you cannot say for sure. You're only trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So looking at our different indirect piece of information from these group 3 versus group 4 tumor, we could see, like, many of these candidates which are mapping, they are probably governed through the glutamate receptor, and glutamate metabolism alteration is one of the key events along with the hypoxia signaling, which is being perturbed here. Now, can we use some of these switches, and especially GRM1 as one of the key target, to inhibit and control the group 3 tumor? And that's where then we try to validate our findings with the targeted proteomics approach. We look at these protein GRM1 and periostin, which showed good trend also in the when we compared them with the targeted analysis with the SRM approach. And then now currently more efforts are being done, which is happening with my PhD students at ACTRAC jointly, looking at the medulloblastoma cell line, inhibiting these targets and trying to look at those effects, and even doing some of the more knockdown studies and seeing the possible effect of those. And then if they show promising, then one could move forward for the clinical trials. Just the last bit of it on the gliomas, another very deadly brain tumors derived from the glial cells of the brain. Now, in this case, we took multiple approaches. This is one of the most popular type of brain tumor. While what I showed to you, meningioma and the medulloblastoma. Medulloblastoma is very rare tumor type, although it's very aggressive, but very rare only in children, pediatric. Meningioma is most commonly occurring, but still it is not a very aggressive type. But the glioma is commonly occurring as well as very aggressive type. So therefore, most of the research and emphasis goes into the glioma-based screening. And here we have 4 different grades of gliomas, grade 1, 2, 3, 4. And we took multiple approaches of looking at the 2D gels, dye gels to begin with when we started with, and then more of the mass spec approaches. Additionally, the complementary protein array-based approach was taken forward. And all that led us to information at the proteome level. But we were equally cautious and keen to know that what else is available from the Cancer Genome Atlas at the genome level. Clinicians also have some information at the transcript level. We also did some work on metabolome level. An idea is, can we map all of them towards forming the systems network analysis and get much more comprehensive integrative analysis and better understanding of these glioma tumors. So this is where we use the label-based approaches of ITRAC, isobaric tag for relative and absolute quantification, which you have been taught earlier. And now in this case, we have, let's say, the control, which is the peritumoral region, the region which is outside the brain tumor, because you will not going to get the healthy individual's brain as a control. So those are treated as a control tissue here, and grade 2, 3, and 4, because the grade 1s are hardly you get any individual who at the very early stages being diagnosed and you can get their tissue. So grade 2, 3, and 4 patients we took, and the study was done almost on 200 patient cohort, very large study which we conducted. Protein extraction, peptide, after digestion, then ITRAC labeling of these 4 conditions. I'm sure by now all these things look very straightforward to you. A small ball is looking like a football you can play very easily here, because all the nitty-gritty and technicalities we have already spoken to you, right? So how to apply that clinically, that's very straightforward. Now you can understand very easily. So after doing the labeling of each one of these 4 sample type, then you can pool them together, and then these can be fractionated with the liquid isoelectric focusing method or chromatography method. And then what you are looking at here, you are looking at the reporter ion intensities of 114, 15, 16, 17 for each one of these MS fragmentation pattern, and trying to find out what could be the possible fold changes happening because of the control versus grade 2, 3, and 4 tumor. So looking at this analysis, additionally, we also performed the same samples on the 2D dyed gels, which also you have been exposed to. But given the limitation of the dyes, which is the less coverage as compared to mass spec approaches, which is very evident here. Now, if you look at this data, we are comparing healthy control versus GBM, grade 2 versus GBM, and grade 3 versus GBM. What you see this particular Venn diagram, this circle, is 176 proteins are differentially expressed from the ITRAC analysis, whereas only very few protein you can see which is coming forward from the dye analysis. And we try different extraction method like TC acetone, trizol extraction method, which also showed there are some unique protein which can come forward from these analyses. So the points I want to highlight this slide are essentially 2 major points. One is that mass spec approaches can reveal you much larger number of significant proteins. That's number one. Number two is there is still need to look at different extraction methods, because they may give you some much more novel protein, which otherwise you will miss out. Is there any question with somebody, or not, please mute yourself. I see some background. So looking at the entire data set of the gliomas, again, I'm giving you really snippet of the work. A lot of at least 3 PhD students have already finished the PhD on this entire work, what I have been talking. And they led us to this entire comprehensive analysis with the major changes happening in the glycolysis and Krebs cycle, some of the fatty acid metabolism related genes, antigen processing and presentation, and cell cycle. Many of these candidates are perturbed in the gliomas. And many protein which we found which are showing changes, which I have just shown in the tabular form, that when you compare the control with grade 2, control with grade 3, or control with grade 4, what kind of trend of the protein you can see. And what looks very interesting is that some proteins are showing linear increase as you go along, like thymosin beta 4 protein or protein S100A6 protein. They are showing that there is an increase of the protein expression as you are moving from the low grade to the higher grade. So some of these proteins can be very important to come up as a classifier panel to distinguish the grade 2s with the grade 3s or grade 4, which is the low grade versus high grade analysis. So there are many options here which you can see. Some proteins are also showing the downward trend. Finally, looking at this, we are able to segregate the different grades. But given that these are very heterogeneous tumor type, it is not very much possible to get exact type of classifiers and exact type of scheme to challenge that. But still one could get the low grade versus high grade with some level of precision. Finally, to validate these targets. So for example, one target was LDH, lactate dehydrogenase. And the trend was from the ITRAC data that, the expression is low in the grade 2, much higher in grade 3, and quite high in the grade 4. Now, the same was tested out on large number of patient sample, as you can see, using targeted proteomic analysis, which is basically looking at selected peptides of these LDH. And then that showed that overall the trend of the grade 4s are more on the higher side as compared to grade 3 and grade 2. But of course, these are very heterogeneous tumor and you will not find very clear pattern, but it's still where you can look at the median intensities of grade 4s are much higher as compared to other grade type. And likewise, we looked at other proteins like protein S100A6 in this case. And also you can see this grade 4 is much higher overall as compared to other grade type. This is how you would like to take your leads forward and you'd like to gain confidence in your data set. So variety of things which we have done. Now, since we have access to different type of tumor type, and even within the brain tumor, we have glioblastoma, meningioma, medulloblastoma, and we also worked on other tumor type like colon cancer, for example. Can we start comparing the tumors across different type of tumors? Because finally what you want, a biomarker which is very specific to a given tumor type. Most of the time, you will see certain genes and protein getting changed because of the hallmark of the cancer, because of the cancer is going to perturb and modulate many of the pathways, which overall going to get deregulated, and you will see those changes happening. Are those just a cancer hallmark genes? Are they specific to brain tumors? Or within brain tumors, can they be indicative, very unique to glioblastoma or meningioma or medulloblastoma, and they are different than other type of organ or other type of tumor type? So a lot of validations are required. We also start looking at now the data across different tumor type, and in few cases like this is one of the housekeeping protein expression which you will see glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Irrespective of the brain tumor type, you will see all the time protein expression is very high. Whereas some protein like alpha-kynurenine B looks very high in the GBM, glioblastoma multiforme, not so much into other brain tumor type. And this is where we need to do a lot of analysis, lot of metadata analysis happens to compare the data across, because just you cannot look at one side of the picture and see we got a biomarker. You have to be really sure and you want to really go across the broad spectrum. That's where I use the word controls, control. You need variety of control from healthy versus disease, within disease from the same tumor type, and compare them across other tumor type as well. So that is what is going to give you some at least interesting information. Finally, this what I just talked to you was one part of the picture, which is looking at the antigen screening, the most abundant protein getting changed as the disease getting progressed from the low grade to high grade. Can we also look at from the other biological sample of the same patient, which is looking at cerebrospinal fluid or looking at their tumor tissue type? Can we try to investigate, are there some protein or antibody changes happening which could be indicative of this disease type of the glioma at the early stage? Because as you have seen in the grade 1 and 2, we were pretty much missing out because many patients did not have the tumor tissue available. So we try to utilize protein arrays in this case, which will be talked, I will talk after your presentation in more detail. But broadly, these are the arrays or the small glass slides on which we have all the human proteins printed. This work was done in collaboration with Johns Hopkins, where they have this uProt array, consists of almost 18,000 human protein in duplicate. And then we had all these patient samples of different grades of glioma, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. And a simple experiment involves here, you take the protein arrays, you block with a blocking solution like BSA or milk, so that all the non-specific sites can be blocked. Then you add the patient serum sample. And the hypothesis here is that because of the tumor, there might be some antibodies being generated in our blood sample, which is known as autoantibodies. If those are present in the tumor, because of the tumor in the blood sample, once you incubate them on the array, the antigens are printed on the array chip, and then antibodies are going to bind to those antigens. And can you detect those antigen antibody interaction on the array and try to find those signal using the secondary antibody which is linked to Cy3 or Cy5 for the human immunoglobulins. So the biology part of it I'll talk in some other time. Don't get worried for the exact reactions of this, what is happening right now. But just to give you a flavor of it, when we screen the grade 2, 3, and 4 patients, we could see like the signals are very different from different scales, and we're talking about 200 or so chips, huge amount of data being generated, almost 40,000 data points for across 200 patients, lot of big data analysis being done, lot of normalization being done. Finally, what we could see, like grade 2 had very few autoantibodies, grade 3 had a really huge number of autoantibodies, and grade 4 had quite moderate numbers. We also tried to come up with more classification efficiency, which was not very promising given the heterogeneity of these tumors. But what looked very promising From these 6, 177 and 46, there were 4 protein at least which are common, which showed the trend is, either increasing or decreasing across as the disease get progressed. So for example, sortin nexin 1 protein, it showed, these are the microarray I'm talking, not mass spec data. So you are looking at the spot intensities of the proteins on the chip. And what you can see here from control to grade 4, the intensities of the protein spots are increasing. So therefore, these antibodies are much strongly produced in the plasma sample, which is we can detect from the blood sample much early as compared to when you are going to do the surgery of a tumor and do analysis from that. Other proteins like IEA1 protein or looking at PQBP1 protein, these are showing down regulation. And another immunoglobulin protein is showing the upregulation. So these 4 showed very promising trend, which could be used for the early detection of these glioma brain tumors, which was very promising because looking at the blood sample, can you get at least some indication of these tumor type? And if that is the case, then you can at least alert these individuals to go for more of the CT scan and MRI and look at even PET scan, and then try to find out are they having some signs for the early grade of these glioma tumors. Of course, while doing so, you generate a lot of data. You can do the reactome and KAG and IPA, different type of pathway analysis softwares are there. Use those and then looked at how the disease getting progressed from grade 2 and 3 as you move from grade 3 and 4. And we could see the different type of new pathways are being showing more changes as the disease moving from the low grade to the higher grade. As you can see, like in the color code, I'm not talking the biology right now in detail, but you can read these papers. I will upload that, which will indicate you that as disease get progressed, we could see newer and newer pathways are being more aggressively emerged as compared to the low grade of gliomas. So many of these insights you can generate for these tumor type. We also look at the heterogeneity of these tumor type based on the location of the tumor, which is known as subventricular zone region here. And these are the close to the SVZ region. These are known as SVZ positive. These are away from that. These are known as SVZ negative in the gliomas. And after doing a lot of work of proteomics and followed by ELISA validation, we found one biomarker NED9, which was quite different in these tumor type. And just to remind you, these two tumor type belong to the heterogeneous group of tumor of glioblastoma, which is a grade 4 tumor. So we are talking about same grade of tumor, same type of tumor. Within that, there is heterogeneity there. And these are very aggressive as compared to these are less aggressive. And within those also, if you can find some of these protein that might be indicative of aggressiveness of these tumor type, which is very important as a guiding tool for the clinicians who are treating these patients. Also, IDH, isocyanated dehydrogenase, is very important gene, which, as you know, already linked to the TCA cycle and oxidative metabolism. And looking at these glycolytic pathways and the IDH mutation, we also try to analyze the patient in that light and found 2 other proteins, YWH-AH and STUB1 protein, which show different in the wild type and the mutant analysis. So again, lot of different ways of understanding and generating more novel insight by using this proteomics technology. Currently, we are just starting a new project of coming up in a new therapeutic approach, along with another colleague from IIT Bombay, Professor Rahul Purwar. He is the immunologist. Our team looking at proteomics and genomics information, and Tata Memorial clinicians are looking at the clinical information. Idea is, can each patient tumor, we can do their exome sequencing. We can also look at their immune precipitation and looking at their neoantigen peptides, and then try to come up with for each patient a unique set of antigens and generate those peptides which can be taken back in the patient and used as a personalized vaccine for the gliomas. So again, you can see a lot of crosstalk, lot of integration of the clinical scientists, the immunologists, the proteomic scientists, the big data group. Everybody has to come forward together to really work on some of these kind of challenging problems. While doing all of this work, we also realized that there was very much dearth of even the baseline data set for the brain tumors, and there was no proteome map available for the even normal brain. So Deep and a couple of MTech students and BTech students of IIT Bombay, they came up with this, the big data analysis in collaboration with the Spanish group, where this paper is going to be, is an advanced stage in a journal right now, and this database will be released soon after that. So we are looking at very comprehensively the entire different regions of the brain and trying to look at, what all proteins are making the normal reference map of the brain. which are the different unique proteins in different regions and subregions, which chromosome they are located with, what kind of missing proteins are present in those brains. So all of these kind of different interesting things can be done once you start generating the data set. This is where we are on this project. I hope I at least gave you some exciting ideas that from these static data set you can generate a lot of valuable information, and you can at least start thinking along those lines that if you were to start your project, not necessarily thinking about only proteomics and clinical data set, any type of project which you are thinking in the life science or big data or biology, how well you can start planning those experiments forward, and which way these technologies, which are very generic technologies, they can be quite robust and help you out to investigate those problems of interest, right? Just to reiterate and refresh you, topics have been frozen by now for the two group types, looking at the clinical or biological data set or looking at more computational AI ML approaches. With this group, we will be looking into much more your biological understanding and clinical understanding from those data set. Please do ask our team and TAs what else information you need to understand that better. This group of students will be looking at from the data which was generated, what else you did to come up with the best classifiers, best predictive panels. You are free to utilize some other literature data also to maybe validate your data and findings. Show your creativity, show your interest, show that how you can take your project forward. So these are the list have been given to you. The schedule has been now finalized. We are going to be ready and excited to hear all of your presentation from the next week. I'll be very happy to talk to this group of students whenever you have any problems or you are doubtful about certain things, because you are the first group of students going to make presentation. We will be happy to help you out. You are going to be the first one to start. And of course, after you, then others will be very easy to follow those trends. So finally, for the evaluation point of view, you are going to make a presentation in the next class, 15 minutes long presentation, a video you are going to record with your face showing on the video. And we will have a short discussion around 3 minutes, Q&A. We'll give you 20 marks. All the videos are going to be uploaded. Again, students can watch those further and then write a summary write-up in the Google form, which will provide you after the class. This is going to be planned for the at least next couple of lectures when all of you are going to make presentations. And right now we are going to distribute ourselves again into two small groups where you have the team links, same team links will be used, and you can split now. And we are going to talk to you about your projects. If you are still unclear about something, this is your opportunity. Please do that. After this week, we will not entertain those problems because you have to now move independently forward and understand your data and make the presentation from that data set. That's all. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have questions, please talk to me now. Any questions linked to the presentation, anything on the brain tumors or linked to apprehensions about your presentations? I'm open to questions and comments. Ansuya, Anoop, Debragya, are you clear about your projects?
Yes, sir. This is Anup. Yes, sir. The project is clear.
And do you feel excited now? You can take your a data set and independently take it forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what data set are you going to work on?
Sir, I'm working on colon adenocarcinoma.
All right. I think it's a good idea to also look at literature in addition to the data which has been provided to you.
Yes, sir.
And it, as I said, we are going to look at each one of your creativity in the projects as well. Feel free to sometime also integrate a transcriptomics data if you think you can for the same type of tumor. If there is some data available for the transcriptomics or somebody else has done proteomics and what they found from those, similar type of tumor, what other findings they have. In that way you can think about, taking your entire comparisons forward and see like, are you able to gain more confidence in your analysis output? All right,
Sure,
I see a question, I think, regarding the mid-sem crib. So what we have seen, there are some questions which are coming common from several students, and we are giving due consideration whether due to unclarity of rephrasing those questions or any option problem. If there are some questions like that, we are going to give you grace marks, but we will make announcement for those shortly. So give us a little time today. We found there are some at least 3-4 questions where options were slightly ambiguous, and there are several students who have asked for the same questions in the crib. So we will consider that. And there are few places which you have individually some doubt, but it was not very clearly justified. We will respond back to that as well. All right. So crib will be taken care of today. We will get back to you shortly, and accordingly the marks will be adjusted. Okay. If there's still any problem, we will take that in next class, but you will receive some communication from our side today. Now, further to that, anybody else has any question or anything regarding the project? Yes.
Hello. I have some question regarding the project. The data that has been assigned to me is based on colorectal cancer. So the data file has like 6 samples each for treated and for normal. So these are, I've heard that these are cell line samples, like drug treatment has been done to the cell lines. So it would be better for me to do the literature review if I had any idea about the drug that had been used, or at least the cell lines, because there might be some mutations in the cell lines, like
absolutely,
if they are colorectal.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Anjali. So sorry, Ashi. So you should at least ask the TAs when you again will split in the group now, yes, to give you more specific detail. And I think we should give you detail, because otherwise you cannot make better sense of the data. So you should have at least much more, clinical or biological information to begin with, and then finally you can also do literature review to substantiate your hypothesis.
Yes, sir, because I was going through some literature review, like published work that has worked on this, and I saw that they are using certain colorectal cell cancer lines which have certain specific mutations, so they are working on. And
very welcome, very welcome, well taken. Yeah, you have to, and likewise for many projects, I think students have to pay attention to what data file has been given to them, and finally, are you going to able to make the interpretation from that data set, and what else information you need from our side, and that's where we are going to have more discussion in the short groups now. Anjali, you have any question?
Yeah, sir. Actually, I am having a problem like in interpreting the correlation plot. So maybe I will just clarify it in the one-to-one meeting.
I think that's what I'm saying. Please all of you utilize the time well, because in addition to the previous demo sessions and all, now since you are doing on your own, and if you are facing problems somewhere in normalization, looking at which among the correlation plots should be taken out to improve your efficiency of that analysis, all that should be taken forward now and utilize the time well. Okay. So let's split the group right now. Shashwati, if you can just share the link again once more. And students can now split into 2 groups of biological clinical as well as the computational and AI ML approach. So then we will now meet into those respective groups. All right, thank you everyone. I'm closing this group now, but I will be joining you, in both the groups. I will be traveling shortly. Okay, thank you.